So this is the second part of the reviewing of the syllabus for Soc 340, section 42. So I pretty much skipped the middle part of the syllabus, was just going over like campus policy and like technology requirements. So you could review that at your leisure if you want to be inform yourself on those matters. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the resource section and then I'll continue into the remainder of the syllabus. Now, the reason why I have the resources listed on my syllabus, I actually started doing this about 7, 8 years ago because since I've been here, I've had a lot of students share with me that they've had personal troubles or life issues that get in the way of their education. Just to sort of give you a general overview, I've had students explain to me how they became homeless or had been living in a car or they've been couch surfing and they're just trying to complete their either last semester or last year at Dominguez Hills. I had a female student just before COVID where she explained during finals week that her boyfriend and her boyfriend's sister at the time jumped her because they had an argument, right? Or I've had students tell me that they're food insecure and are not necessarily sure where they're going to get their meals from. So because of these type of interactions that I've had with students since I've been here, since 2012, I decided to start incorporating some of this information. All right, so this is not an exhaustive list of information, but it's just something to get people started on whatever to be able to manage whatever issues they're facing at the time. So, for example, the first is just looking at if you're experiencing like interpersonal violence, like domestic violence, stalking, harassment, sexual misconduct. You can; these are the numbers that you are able to access here on campus. But then I just realized that I believe that Elizabeth Schrock is no longer the Title IX officer, so I need to double check and then fix that. Okay. But then I also included information off campus, so like the YWCA or SUCASA. And this organization is mainly located in the greater Long Beach area, if I'm not mistaken. And then also the National Domestic Violence Hotline, as well as a website for women law on information on restraining orders and other information, as well as the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence for Information and Resources. I also included the Rose Black Resource Center, which is a location here on campus that is meant to provide a space for Black students, as well as immigration. If you're a DACA student, there's actually the Toro Dreamer Success Center. And also, if you're dealing with immigration issues, I included the Loyola Immigrant Justice Clinic phone number, as well as the number for the Coalition for Humane Immigration Rights, or CHIRLA, here in Los Angeles, and then also information on the pantry. And I believe it's no longer in Loker. I believe it's at the library. So I'll double check and then I'll fix this. Okay. Oh, and definitely it's no longer at the Women's Resource Center because that building was torn down. So I'll make those adjustments. And then also the information on the regional Los Angeles Regional Food Bank, because I volunteer at a local food bank in the San Fernando Valley. When I have available time, I participate or I help out to distribute food to community members. So I do understand at a practical level the how widespread food insecurity is in working class communities. Okay, all right. So like that's not for the resources. Now this is the instruction. Now if you need to organize your life, I created these tables to help you be able to do that. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is the instructor deadline. So I have until February 8th to be able to drop students from the class. As I mentioned in the previous video, the way that I take role is going to be by me writing out essays and you addressing those essays based on the readings for that particular week. You're going to have until Sunday to be able to complete the readings as well as to answer the questions, and that's how I'm going to take role. All right. Like I mentioned in the previous video, Monday for me is the beginning of the week and Sunday is the end of the week. And Sunday is when you're going to submit all your work to me. Okay. Now, and then the other date is February 16th, and this is for you. If you want to drop the class, you can drop it up until February 16th, and it will not show on your transcripts. But if you drop the class after the 16th, you're going to have a W show on your transcripts. Okay. We want to be mindful of that drop date. Also, I included the dates for the final research paper as well as your final presentation that you're going to record and upload onto Canvas. And that's going to be for Friday, May 17th, 2024, and you're going to upload it onto Canvas by 11:59 on that particular day, which is a Friday. Okay, this is the only exception that you're not going to submit your work on a Sunday. Okay, now. If you need information about assignments, I have this table for assignments. It's like when assignments 1, 2, 3, or 4 are going to be signed and when they're due. Because of the strike, I changed the dates a little bit. So instead of having your paper due on January 28th, it's going to be due February 4th, which is the end of this week, I believe. All right. And then, like I mentioned, assignment 2 is going to be the research proposal. Assignment 3 is going to be the annotated bibliography. And assignment 4 is going to be the rough draft. Okay. And then I already posted this question or assignment 1 on Canvas, and you should be able to see it on the module that I posted on over the weekend. All right. As I mentioned before, you're just going to answer these questions, and you're not going to do any research like in class or out of class. This is just you answering these questions. Okay. And if you have any questions, please send me an email so I can go over them and make sure that you understand what I'm asking you to write about. Okay. All right. So then I also posted the readings for this week. And this is the readings like Roland Barthes, Maurice Merleau-Ponty, Ferdinand de Saussure, and Herbert Blumer are the readings for this week. And at the end of these readings, I posted questions, and that's again how I'm going to take roll. Okay. And then on February 5th, we're going to look at The Self and Society by Irving Goffman. And I'm going to talk about his study, the presentation of self, and then related to stigma and how he sees identity and how we take roles in society. Okay. And then from there, we're going to go look at civilization, culture, and society. And going to look at Richard Sennett and his explanation of roles. Right, and then look into Sigmund Freud's civilization as discontent and looking at how culture influences people's behaviors and perspective. Okay, and then here you'll notice on February 12th, assignment 2 is going to be assigned, and I will post this on Canvas as well as a handout explaining what you're going to do with this particular assignment, as well as a YouTube tutorial showing you how to go about doing the assignment. And then here, and then we have President's Day. So I'm going to post this before President's Day, but this is the readings for that particular week, as well as the questions and all that. Okay. And then we're going to look at is society sane? And looking at the last chapter of Sigmund Freud and looking at Erich Fromm. And then we're going to pay attention to how Erich Fromm used Freud's ideas to be able to talk about living in a sane society, and also indicate how Fromm was able to use Marxist analysis and integrate that into his psychological analysis as well. Okay. And then the March 4th through the 7th week, we're going to look at the social construction of reality. And we're going to read Karl Mannheim's chapter on ideology and utopia and sort of look at this idea of knowledge and society. And then what does the sociology of knowledge necessarily entail, and what does that necessarily mean? And then we're going to read Berger and Luckman's text, The Social Construction of Reality, and review these three chapters. And then here on March 4th, you see when these assignments are due and assigned. Okay. And then we're going to go to the issue of obedience and disobedience and look at and talk about a little bit about the Stanley Milgram experiment and why it was conducted and what was learned by being able to do this experiment. Okay. And then from there, we're going to look at how society remembers social and collective memories. So we're going to look at Paul Connerton and Iwona Irwin Zareka and her in her book Friends of Remembrance and looking at how society remembers. But then we're also going to look at the other end of the spectrum of how majority forgets or how society forgets and the construction of amnesia. Okay. And then here's assignment three is going to be due, and this is where assignment four is going to be assigned, right? Okay. And then after the 10th week of the 11th week on April 1st is spring break. So I'm not going to post any postings or you're not going to submit any assignments. So it's going to be a free spring break for you. Okay. Once we return from spring break, we're going to look at political culture and understanding nihilistic thinking. And the reason why I'm including this now is because of how, when you're looking at the Republican Party or the GOP and how they're undermining the idea of politics, and I think I mentioned this in the previous video, that like with the crisis, the border crisis in Texas, is the construction of a crisis created by the inaction of the GOP and their ability to use the border as a bludgeon to try to make Joe Biden look bad. Because I'm not sure if you were aware or heard this on the news or in the media that Trump gave the word last week that he does not want the Republicans to negotiate and close this deal. And it's a way of trying to talk about how the Democrats are open border policy, but in reality, based on the evidence, it is the Republican Party who are in favor of this type of open border rhetoric. And they're creating this crisis of their own making. And the unfortunate thing is that it leaves people who are in very dire, precarious conditions and state where they become political pawns of a very gross and very inhumane treatment of people who are in constant crisis, right? So then this is important to be able to understand how nihilistic thinking impacts politics and knowledge, okay? And then from there, we're going to look at the politics of representing violence and pain by reading Elaine Scarry and Amy Schumann and Kara Bowman, and to be able to understand how these things are represented to us, either like in news stories or images or even movies, because the experiencing of pain is such a subjective and intimate experience. Sometimes the words to explain that pain is insufficient. Okay. So like that's the intent for this week. And then you have necropolitics or bare life or social death, where we look at the political uh, play of who gets to live and who gets to die. Like the people who are at the border. And some of these people came from like Central America and South America and have walked for months to be able to arrive to the United States in the hope of being able to claim asylum or to enter the United States, right? Okay, and then once we get to past the necropolitics, we'll look at conspiracy thinking, politics, and culture. Because of technology and all this information that we're literally existing in an informational and technologized society, sometimes it's very difficult to tell what is true or what is accurate. So you have all these conspiracies that exist out there. So this section will sort of look at conspiracy thinking politics and how this tends to, or how this undermines this idea of understanding a common reality, right? And I'll share some conspiracies that I've come across over the years in this module, okay? And then from looking at conspiracy theories, we'll look at society and the possibility of hope and how what does it mean to have hope or to be able to imagine a hope in a period where there's nothing but crisis and despair diffused throughout society, right? And then lastly, we have finals week, and this is when you're going to submit your final assignments to me at the end of the semester. Okay. So now I'm just going to show you what's beyond the page 12. So what I did here on this page is that I provided you examples of how to do citations from a sociological tradition. So this is ASA style citations. Okay. Now, when you're writing your papers, I don't really mind or care if you use APA, MLA, or ASA as long as you're consistent. What I've always told students is that at the very minimum, you should be able to use and be very familiar with two different styles of citation formats. Right. So you could learn APA and MLA or APA and ASA or ASA and MLA. Right. And then depending what your needs are, you can use accordingly. Okay. And then lastly, on page 14, I included this code of conduct so that what you're going to do is you're going to read this clause or yeah, this paragraph, and I'm going to change the date and the semester. All right. And then I'll repost this onto Canvas. And then you're going to write your name and sign, and then you're going to either take a picture or scan it and send it to me. Okay. Now, just to let you know, since this is part of the participation and and attendance, so if I don't see this at the end of the semester when I start calculating all your assignments and all your grades and whatnot, I will deduct points for this not being part of the packet or my packet evaluating you at the end of the semester. So you want to make sure that you do all these points, okay? So hopefully this makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense and you have any questions, please send me an email and just give me about 24 to 48 hours to be able to respond. Okay. So thank you very much for listening to this, and I hope you have a good week. Bye.